the experience and all the skills that she offers for us to observe. The title of her speech is The Mother Paradox, and this is very good on time for Mother's Day approaching. She's going to give a classic speech on Mother's Day. She's been in Toastmasters since 1973, and she's a corporate trainer with Wilson Learning Corporation. Her speech is going to be from 8 to 10 minutes. Please help me welcome Karen Kogan.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. If you've ever watched a toddler at play, you see them run off and adventure and explore the world, and then suddenly they quickly turn around, look for their mothers, go back to their mothers, and refuel. That's the non-clinical term that psychologists use. And so toddlers go through this exploration of the world of running and playing and coming back to their mothers, running and playing and coming back to their mothers to be refueled. Our mothers are one of the most significant relationships in our life, if not the most. They help us define what is our security. They also help us define our separateness and our individuation. They have tremendous power in our lives. With this kind of power, there's the power to help, the power to teach, the power to nurture, and the power to hurt. With that kind of power, little wonder we often have mixed feelings about our own mothers. As we approach Mother's Day, and we see all these glorious commercials that depicting the perfect mother relationship. Some of us have that, and some of us don't. And today I want to talk about the 3 arenas in which we find our relationships with our mothers as we approach Mother's Day. The lost mother, the mother with whom we carry baggage, and then that more idyllic mother, that relationship that is depicted in the commercials. First, the lost mother. It is probable that every one of us in this room will outlive our mothers, which means at some point there will be a Mother's Day and there will not be a mother. A dear friend of mine in college was in her early 20s. Her mother had a horrible bout with cancer. The cancer had ravaged her life and ravaged all of the family's resources. In her 20s, she was orphaned, had a few pieces of furniture, and an exquisite diamond Star of David. And that was all she had to start out her life. It was her mom's birthday, every Mother's Day, and those significant events in her life that she anguished for that relationship with her mother. When her sister was having her first child, her mother's first grandchild, Kim pulled up into the hospital to go see her sister, looked up and saw the window of the room where her mom had died. And she was so frustrated. And she's pounding the steering wheel, screaming, "You should be here!" She calmed herself. She went into the hospital. She told the nurse who she was as she came on the maternity ward. The nurse says, "Oh, the waiting room is over there. Your mom's in there waiting for you." She blew it off thinking, well, somebody's lucky enough to have a mother around. She walked in, and the room was empty. "Okay, Mom, I get it." That relationship is so powerful that in some way she was there. If you're facing Mother's Day without a mother, I encourage you to do what my parents did. When my grandmother was gone, my parents every year did something meaningful in her name. She had a best friend who lived in a nursing home miles away, hours away. That Mother's Day weekend, they always would make a sojourn to visit Gladys, because it would be the sweetest thing my grandmother could think of, was to go visit her old friend. Find something meaningful. Write a letter, make a phone call, make a donation to her favorite charity. Mark Mother's Day by doing something meaningful in her day, in her name. The second arena is that arena where we have some old baggage, and I think it's fair to say that all of us enter adulthood with some frustration around our parents. Even good parents make mistakes. In her book on passages, Gail Sheeny talked about how when we go from our 20s to our 30s, we begin to bridge that transition into our 30s. She calls that catch 30. And we begin to reevaluate our lives in detail, because we spent our 20s pretty much pleasing everybody, doing what we were supposed to do, and we hit our 30s and saying, wait a minute, what do I do for me? Who am I? And at that point in my life, I had a great relationship with my folks. I had a couple little kids. They were wonderful grandparents. And I suddenly, out of nowhere, was seethed with frustration and anger about stuff that had happened years ago. And it like came out of nowhere, and it was so frustrating that I was seething. My parents were very religious, very conservative, and from my way of thinking, I had missed some of the rites of passage, and I was angry about it. I didn't know what to do with this. Finally, living in this emotional compost, I just sat down and put pen to paper and started to write. What I ended up with was 3 lists. Thank you for, I'm sorry for, and I forgive you for. The thank yous were 3 pages long. The I'm sorries were significant because it was the first time I took responsibility for my part in goading them, and my part in button pushing, and the I forgive you for's 3 things. 3 things that overshadowed 3 pages of thank yous. Now, in the moment, I didn't feel forgiving, but I wanted to forgive. I put it away for a couple of weeks, came back, read it, and it was gone. It was over. It was done. Corrie ten Boom, who wrote The Hiding Place, she had been one of the people in Scandinavia who had hidden Jews from the Nazis. They were found, she was arrested, she went to a concentration camp, survived, and wrote the book The Hiding Place. In the book she writes, the very thing you cannot forgive is the thing you must forgive, for without forgiveness we are prisoners of our past. If you have baggage with your mother this Mother's Day, consider forgiveness. I can't tell you what will work for you. I can tell you what worked for me. Decades ago, I let go, and it's never come back. And the third relationship with our mothers, that's the idyllic one. That's the one that if you have a warm and loving relationship with your mom, enjoy that and celebrate it. My mom taught me many lessons, which I cherish. And one of my favorite lessons, when my daughter came home with a biker, and he was rough, and he was rugged, and he was tattooed, and he worked for Harley Davidson, and he drove a bike, and turned out he was the nicest guy. I wish he had married him. He was this big cream puff. My mother meets him for the first time. And this conservative, deeply religious looks at this biker and she says, "Can I have a ride on the back of your bike?" And what I learned from my mom is if your granddaughter dates a biker, ask for a ride on the back of his bike. If you have a mother that you have this relationship with, cherish the day, mark the day, remember the day. For the day will come when there will be a Mother's Day and there won't be a mother. And this relationship that we have is so profound that even death cannot sever it. We have each other.